Okay, I will take the privilege having the microphone to ask you first questions. So the thing you have with having problems of finding fundings to do work of co-medication with normal drugs and cannabis extracts, we got exactly the same. We're working on blueberries, we're working on apples. We cannot find anybody wanting to fund something that is obvious and cheap to buy or cheap to get. So how would you say we can avoid this?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I have to say that we don't have problems getting funding for doing preclinical research. We are very lucky. I mean, on the other side, we've been working on this for 20 years. But I think we are very lucky, and we have funding from public agencies in Spain. Our Ministry of Health finance our research. We don't have any kind of problems in Spain for doing research with cannabinoids. We get funding from non-profit organizations. A car insurance company is also funding us. So it's not difficult to find funding for preclinical studies in our experience. Something completely different is when you want to move to the clinical studies.
You know we have problems already at the level basis. Just to use a lab, I'm not using mouse, I'm using 3D culture, but exactly the same. Yeah. But to find the ANR, the National Recherche funding, they are always rejected.
I know, and I'm very sorry to hear that. And I hope that scenario will change very soon, because it makes no sense. I mean, this is a field like any other. We are dealing with something that can help patients, so why not financing it?
Even if you ask for multi-therapy testing in vitro, you cannot find any funding.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Des questions un peu moins dépressives?
Bonjour à tous, je m'appelle Frédéric. J'aurais voulu savoir s'il y avait des études ou des retours sur la génothérapie, l'utilisation du THC et du CBD. C'est-à-dire le fait de gêner, de ne pas manger. Il y a des études qui ont été faites en Union soviétique sur la génothérapie il y a plus de 40 ans. Et je voulais savoir s'il y avait un rendu aux États-Unis, en Espagne ou en Europe.
It's about not eating, stopping eating.
Yeah, one of if you remember from this morning, I don't know if you were here this morning, there is this report by the American Academies of Science, Medicine, and I don't remember the third one, showing they did an analysis of the published literature, and they summarize for what conditions there is enough evidence supporting the medicinal use of cannabis, and stimulation of appetite is one of them. So yes, there are studies conducted on that, and yes, cannabis can work to stimulate appetite. Have I answered your question?
It's talking about fasting, no, not eating.
Oh, using cannabis for not eating? Okay. Okay, yeah. Okay, if I understand correct the question, you're asking if we can use cannabis to deal with appetite disorders? No.
Therapy by fasting. In Russia, they stop eating to cure the cancer.
Oh, if fasting can help with cancer?
And cannabis.
Okay, I'm not aware of any kind of studies, either preclinical or clinical on that subject. It's true that...
I can answer a little bit.
Okay.
Donc le fasting, le jeûne, est effectivement excellent parce que les cellules cancéreuses ont un grand métabolisme et donc elles ont besoin de beaucoup de sucre. Donc c'est aussi, on a beaucoup de cancers parce qu'on utilise beaucoup d'aliments sucrés, beaucoup d'aliments énergétiques. Donc le fait d'arrêter le métabolisme des cellules cancéreuses, votre système immunitaire va venir là-dessus et va de nouveau pouvoir reprendre. Mais je ne pense pas que le cannabis va aider parce qu'il va vous ouvrir l'appétit.
Yeah.
Voilà.
If I may add a comment, yeah, that's true, but don't put any cancer patient on fasting for a long time, because then you will deteriorate his or her quality of life tremendously. So careful with that.
Exactly. I think that this is we need really clinical data, preclinical and clinical data to move forward with these ideas. What we know is that cannabinoids have actions on the metabolism lipidic, glycemic, proteinic, and they decrease cholesterol. My patients start for pain, and after that they quit statins because they are normalized in cholesterol. And also they are losing weight because they are using interesting amounts of CBD for some diseases. So, but what Cristina is saying is if you put a patient that has cancer and the fasting method, it can be very risky. Differently if we can be selective with some kind of food and not other. But this is something that we need more data.
Donc, en Russie, ils font ça, ils donnent que du thé noir pendant 3 semaines. Mais après, ils donnent nouveau à manger. Hein, donc et il y a des résultats assez incroyables. Hein. Non, mais attends, il est d'abord là.
It's the second time in a few months that I see something about cannabinoids and cancer. The first time was a few months ago at THS. It's a conference. Anyway, it's a conference about addictology. So my question is just, this kind of presentation, or even a much more scientific one, can you present them in a cancerology conference? Does it a mainstream way of working, or is it something secret and which is unknown by cancerologists?
Yeah, no, this is...
You can show it, just you can...
Absolutely. Actually, I have to tell you that when we present these results, and I have not presented this in a very scientific way because my goal was for everybody to understand what I was explaining. But we do very serious cell signaling work, and our work is published in the most highly cited scientific journals. We have published in Nature Medicine, in Nature Reviews Cancer, in the top cancer journals, and we've never faced any problem within the scientific community or within the medical community. When you go with facts to the medical community, there's nothing to talk about. So we are not talking about the energy of the plant or about mystic. We are talking about facts. It's science. So.
Hi. So I was wondering about the fact that there is not so many clinical research on humans. Is it mostly because of an economic lack of incentive because of the patent strategy that they cannot patent? Or is it because there is an ethical problem of finding patients that can enter these studies?
No, it's not an ethical problem, it's an economical problem. These kind of studies cost millions of euros, and when I say millions, I'm not exaggerating, they cost millions of euros. And unfortunately, the only groups or institutions, or you call it whatever you want, that have this kind of amount of money are big pharma companies. So we move at the pace they decide to move. And I would love to make a clinical trial, but I don't have that kind of money. And my government, for example, would never fund anything like this, not because it's cannabis, but because it's a clinical trial, and they don't. We can get funding. But for example, there is a clinical trial that we will start soon in Spain, hopefully, on GBM again. And part of the funding has come from crowdfunding, that Bank of Seeds did years ago. So we have to find other sources of funding to move faster.
So you've shown that cannabinoids can help kill some cancer cells. What about prevention? If there's no cancer?
Yeah, that's a very good question too. All the experiments we've done have been done. The treatment with cannabinoids starts once the tumors have appeared. And we did this that way because we wanted to mimic the human pathology as much as we could. Now that we know that we get anti-tumor responses once the tumors are established, we would like to answer that question in the lab. But some experiments have been done in models of cancer where the first stages of the disease is inflammation, for example, in colorectal or liver cancer. And before the tumors appear, cannabinoids work very well in preventing the progression, and the percentage of animals that develop the tumors is smaller when they have been using cannabis before the tumors appear. Would this apply for the human pathology? We don't know, but it's true that cannabinoids are very potent anti-inflammatory compounds, and I would bet that for those pathologies where inflammation is a key element in the development of the disease.
We have exactly the same results with blackberry extracts, which avoid polyps formation in the gut. Mm-hmm. But then you answer to the industrial guy, yes, you need just 2 little pieces of blackberries fresh for every day, and that's the dose enough to cure you. Nobody wants to.
I don't know if that's
this.
enough to prevent cancer, but I think it wouldn't harm you.
It's open. Thank you very much for the presentation. Honestly, it was a great honor to have you today with us, because most of us, we have seen you on YouTube and with many presentations, so to see you live was a big difference. And you answer a lot of questions that all of us we have. But there is one question that is still remaining with me. It's regarding the anti-tumoral effect possible of CBD versus THC, because you have mentioned THC many times, and we have seen also and read and learn a lot of things about the anti-tumoral effect of the CBD. Yeah. So do you have any clue about that?
Yeah, that's also a very good question. And we have plenty of results showing that CBD also has anti-tumoral properties. And we also have experiments done where we have combined THC and CBD. And what works best seems to depend on the specific type of tumor. For example, for brain tumors, my colleague Guillermo Velasco has tested different ratios, and more THC seems to work better than 1:1 or more CBD. For breast cancer, for example, we've done some experiments ourselves, and we see that CBD in some specific entities works as effectively as THC. So the answer, again, we will need to perform clinical trials to answer your question. But I would, when patients write me, I usually suggest, I never suggest things, but my suggestion would be, since we don't know what is best for the patients, always add some CBD to your treatments. We use both THC and CBD. And if it doesn't work, you can increase one or increase the other. But a good starting point, or a reasonable starting point, would be using both. Not only because CBD also has anti-tumor properties, but also because CBD helps dealing with the psychoactivity of THC. For example, it has other properties, anti-inflammatory properties, anxiolytic properties. So having them both in your therapy, I think, is a good starting point. Hold on a second, because they can't translate your question because you didn't speak at the microphone.
Sorry, no, I was just asking regarding the, very specific breast cancer, that is the hormonal positive one, where currently there is a complete no answer regarding the use of high THC or high CBD or the right ratio. So as you have used both, could you give some guidance or?
Yeah. I'm fully aware of this controversy all over the internet. And we are just finishing some in vivo studies using ER positive, PR positive tumors. And we see that they respond very well to THC. That's what we see. They respond very well to THC. And actually, I didn't show it today, but we have performed experiments with tamoxifen as well, comparing the effect of THC, the extract in tamoxifen, and the extract is as effective as tamoxifen in producing anti-tumoral responses, and probably way less toxic than tamoxifen.
Do you have any ideas what's also molecules present in your natural extract, THC-rich extract?
Can you ask again? The extract?
The curve you saw, yeah, it's an ethanolic extract of
Yes,
plants?
it's
So
an,
you have terpenoids, you have...
yeah, it's an ethanolic extraction, and we have tested, I think it's 15 cannabinoids, and I think it's 20 or, I don't remember the exact name, but more than 20 terpenes. Yeah.
Terpenes,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yes.
So you're not sure that it's the THC who gives additional... It could be THC, your drug, plus your drug.
Yeah, that's also a very
So,
good question, and I didn't want to show the results now, but what we've done is taking the 5 most prominent or most abundant terpenes in the extract, make a cocktail, mix it with pure THC to see if those were the responsibles for the increased potency, and the answer is no. So we need more than those 5 most abundant
The
terpenes.
thing very difficult with terpenes, they are very volatile.
Yeah, I know.
So to know exactly what you got inside.
I know, but trust me, we have been testing with 3 different testing labs to be sure that we still had the terpenes and they were not on the air, just all of us smelling them.
You can smell it in the incubator. Right?
Yeah.
Petite dernière.
I'm sorry, my question will be in French, please. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup pour votre présentation. Est-ce que pour les études de recherche fondamentale sur la question de la cellule en particulier, est-ce qu'à votre avis, il faudra mieux prendre en compte les questions de santé et d'environnement, et particulièrement l'impact au niveau des cellules, des rayonnements électromagnétiques, de la radioactivité, des pesticides dans l'alimentation dont on a abordé très rapidement les questions, etc., etc. Je vous remercie de votre regard.
Yeah, in an ideal world, it would be great to control of those things or model of those things in the lab, but right now, that's how we can work. So I would love to do experiments replicating the environment of a polluted city like Paris or Madrid, or modeling ingestions of foods that we know that are not healthy for us, but right now, we are not focusing on the pure anti-tumoral response of these compounds without taking into account those other components, but they are very important, absolutely. Yeah.
If your government change, we still have glyphosate for 2 more years or 3.
Okay.
Which is not good. Plus de questions? On peut passer à la dernière conférence alors. Merci beaucoup.